Okay, so what we're going to do today, I'm going to share with you this NACCAS report. This school, they got a visit from NACCAS, an inspection, and NACCAS is going to check your files. They're going to check your paperwork. They're going to check your institutional self-study. Of course, you have to submit your institutional self-study to NACCAS before they come visit your school. But this is an actual real report. I did change the name for privacy purposes. So let's look at this. So NACCAS sent them their report. The reference number, when you get in candidate status, NACCAS is going to give you a reference number. Your reference number is your social security number. So it'll have the date of the candidate consultation visit. And this is their first visit that they got. So they got one more visit. When they sent this report, they probably had about 15 days to correct all of this. So let me go page by page. So what we're looking at now, it'll have the school that NACCAS visited, the type of consultation, city, state, the date, the NACCAS representatives. Now, these are the programs that the school has. Now it says programs observed, meaning these are the programs that NACCAS observed and looked at. Now, it also shows the time that NACCAS arrived at the school, the time they left. They didn't stay real long because this school was so messed up that they had a lot of things. So they just really told them everything was wrong and kind of got up out of there. All right, now, as we go through this report, I'm going to break this whole report down to you. So let's scroll down. Probably going to make the page a little, let's see, because I want y'all to be able to read this. So I'm going to make the page probably a little larger so you all can read this. But let me make it where it stops scrolling. Okay, so let me make this smaller where it fits on the page. Okay, so now let's start on this report. So this is the report that NACCAS typed up. So basically they said where it's located, who it's owned by, and we're going down. Okay, this school is seeking accreditation. Now, this is very important right here. What NACCAS is saying here, that when you apply for candidate status, your application, when you submit your original application, you have to let NACCAS know what programs you plan on teaching. This school right here, they told NACCAS on their initial application that they have two programs, 1,500 hours for barbering and 900 clock hours for crossover, the hybrid, okay, both of them. Now, so what they're saying is this school cannot be teaching no other programs but these two. Why? Because that's what they put on their application when they originally started with NACCAS. Now, if you want to add programs, you can, but this school, they did not have this. They had two programs that they submitted to NACCAS. All right, now keep that in mind. Also, when NACCAS came to their school, NACCAS is not going to look through all your files. They'll just take a sample. And it's saying they took 2 current students, 2 graduate students, 2 withdrawal students. All right, so they'll get a list. You'll give NACCAS a list, and they'll just say, hey, I want these 2, I want them 2, or these 3, or these 4, or whatever. Now, so now let's keep going. Also, before they come to visit your school for your candidate visit, you have to submit your institutional self-study. That's the 200 to 400 page document. And we've talked about that in previous trainings, and I have those trainings in the back portal of the free academy, school academy. So y'all can go back there and look. Now, also your financials, the financial statements, they must be prepared by a licensed CPA. I've given y'all Nathan Ferguson, a guy that's reputable. He's legit, he's above board. He's done hundreds of these schools' financials. And if you all don't have his number, I have that in the back portal of the free academy. Let's keep going. Now, it said it was determined that the institution's owner, James, he attended a NACCAS workshop back in March of 2023. Now, The institution was reminded that based on the rules and regulations, you have to attend a workshop every 12 months. Now, prior to this workshop, basically it's saying that if an institution has not submitted an application for initial accreditation on their 12-month anniversary. Now, what I want to share with you, keep this in mind. You got to go to a NACCAS workshop every 12 months. Just keep that in mind. Let's keep going. This school owner, I'm not going to read this part right here, but basically they didn't go every 12 months. All right, they missed one. So you got to go every 12 months. All right, unless NACCAS sends you a letter stating you're good, you don't have to go for a while. But keep that in mind, every 12 months. Now let's keep going. Let's go on down here. Okay, if we look at this, it says findings, things that NACCAS found wrong, incorrect. So the first thing, if we look at this, programs on file with NACCAS. You remember I told you when you fill out your application, you have to let NACCAS know what programs that you're teaching. Well, when they filled out their application, they only put 2 programs down. When NACCAS came to their school, how many programs did they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But they told NACCAS, based on their application that they submitted months back or whatever, or a year back, however long, they had 2 programs. NACCAS comes and they teaching 6. Okay, that's not good. Look, we'll keep going. Now, let's go down some more. Look, in addition, NACCAS only has 2 programs listed for the institution. I just highlighted that. I just told y'all that. Okay? But they got all these other programs. So what they're going to have to do, they're going to have to submit another application to update that. Because now they're basically teaching programs that are not listed with NACCAS. All right? Now, should the institution wish to offer them other programs, the proper addition of a new program application. So basically, they got to fill out a program application and submit that to NACCAS to get them other programs approved, or they're going to have to remove those programs. Now, another thing that we got to keep in mind, you can only teach programs that are approved by your local state board. Because when you go through your final inspection, your initial accreditation application, NACCAS is going to ask you for a letter from your state board with all of the approved programs that your state board has approved you to teach. So a lot of schools get messed up from that too. So step 1, whatever the state board has approved you for, that's what you need to be teaching. And that's what you need to put on your application when you submit to NACCAS. So we're going to keep going. Let's see. We're only looking at things. Okay, so let's look at this. The advisory committee. Your advisory committee, if you teach barber and cosmetology, all right, you need to have a barber and a cosmetologist on their license that's working in a shop out in the field. On your advisory committee, you cannot have an employee that's working at your school on your advisory committee. Look what they did. They had an internal staff member right here on the advisory committee. That's a no-no. They didn't know that. Had they been in the program, they would already know that. Had we did their ISS, we would have never put that on there. So they're going to have to remove that and get that corrected. That's a write-up right there. Next thing. The ISS contained a sample form for the advisory committee meeting minutes, meaning they didn't have the advisory committee meeting minutes. In your institutional self-study that you submit to NACCAS, you must have advisory committee meeting minutes. You got to have at least one meeting per year. Now, a lot of school owners don't know what that is. A lot of them probably never had committee meeting minutes. All right. Okay, so they didn't have an advisory committee meeting minutes. Got wrote up for that. Guess what? On this one, I'm highlighting this. They didn't have the current instructor surveys. You got to have at least 3 current instructor surveys if you can. All you have to do is take the instructor, not the current instructor, but current student. I'm sorry, current student surveys. All you got to do is take the paper, go in the classroom, have the students to fill it out, put it in a file. That's simple. If you don't have copies of the NACCAS updated current student surveys, let us know. If you're in the program, you could download that. If you don't see it in your back portal, y'all just email the ladies. So that's another thing. The next thing they got wrote up for, when a student graduates from your school, they must fill out a graduate exit survey. When they graduate that day, you bring them in the office and they fill it out and you put it in a folder. This school, guess what? They didn't do that. They didn't have none completed. All right, another write-up. Next thing, instructor feedback. The instructor survey. They didn't do the instructor surveys. We have all of those documents. They're in the program. You just click a button, download it, complete it. The next thing they got, the ISS states to see exhibit 1.12 for the summary of feedback. Guess what? They didn't have it, the exhibit. They didn't have the exhibit of feedback from all of them. The next thing, the ISS states to see exhibit 1.13 for the improvement plan. Guess what? They didn't have an improvement plan. They probably didn't know what the heck they were doing. We'll keep going. This is on standard 1. There are 10 standards. Standard 2, the cosmetology practitioner's license for James and Mary were current at the time of the ISS. However, they are now expired. So basically, when they submitted the ISS, their current instructor license was current. But when NACCAS came out for the visit, their instructor's license had expired and they hadn't had them updated. Another write-up, okay? Another thing, copy of the state board rules and regulations for the qualifications for instructors for their state. They didn't provide it. Now, all they had to do was hire an expert team to do all of this for them. But guess what? When people tell me they're going to do this themselves, I say, okay. I don't say anything else. I say, okay. I may smile or laugh inside, but like this person, and they came running back. They DM'd us. This person had my number. They blown my phone up. Next thing. Let me move that back. The ISS indicates that the student to teacher ratio, look at this. The ISS indicates that the state does not have a student to teacher ratio. When the state that this school is in, they do. Their rules and regulations states that their teacher to student ratio is 20 students to 1 student. But they put in here that it didn't. They either didn't know or whatever. So that's not true. Another red flag write-up or whatever. Now, in addition, the school catalog states that the teacher to student ratio is 8 students to 1 teacher, when the rules and regulations for this state says it's 20 students to 1 teacher. Now look at this. However, the narrative statement indicates that the student teacher ratio is 20 to 1. This information should be consistent. It's not consistent. Next thing. Not all the requested information was provided. Please provide an explanation on how the institution ensures that substitutes are familiar with the institute's curriculum. We have a policy. We have a document that substitute teachers fill out. We have an explanation, a policy that they can put in there. They did not have this policy. Next thing. I mean, this school just got tore out the frame. No, all the requested information, look at this. It's saying all of this requested information was not provided. Please provide a copy of instructor meeting minutes throughout the 12 months. They ain't know how to do no instructor meeting minutes. They don't even know how to format it. They don't even know the proper questions that NACCAS asks. Another write-up. Now, the continuing education documentation provided in the ISS for both Mike and Jane Jones does not meet the NACCAS requirements. So their continuing education, whatever they put in there, it didn't meet NACCAS requirements. Okay? Now, look, the certificate of attendance of this workshop, the Barber Masterclass, does not have a date or number of hours. So NACCAS can't even document that they have their continuing education hours. We'll keep going. They got all kinds of stuff wrong. Next thing, the institution's policy states that performance evaluations will occur in January of each year. However, look, the performance evaluations in the ISS were done in August of 2023. They done told them it was done in January, but it was done in August. And I know that you all are probably saying, wow, this is crazy. The institution's license are current at the time of the ISS. When they submitted their ISS, their school license was current. When NACCAS came out, guess what? They were expired. All right. All right, the next thing. The institution's narrative response does not fully address the question. So basically, this response indicates that it has ensured that it has proper administrative admissions and instructional support. So basically, they didn't answer this question correctly. They probably didn't know how to answer it. Upon review of their website, a lot of things was wrong. The admissions requirements did not match the admissions requirement. The admissions requirements on their website, look, it didn't match in the catalog. I'm highlighting this. The tuition fees on the website, guess what? Were different than the tuition fees on their enrollment agreement and in their catalog. The program name that they had, their school name that they had on their website was different from the school name on the catalog. Now, you know, it may be James Beauty Academy. They might have had J Beauty Academy. You know, it could have been something like that. And you got to get them alternate names approved. Let's see. So they had that name, the name that you have with NACCAS, that's what you need to have on all your paperwork, your website, your enrollment agreement, your catalog. Basically what they're saying here, various places, is not. Okay. NACCAS advertising policy requires that the institution's website include all of NACCAS required pre-enrollment disclosures. The disclosures were not found on the website and they need to be added. Let's keep going. Okay. ISS contained a copy of a blank release form. Please provide an executed copy of this form. They wanted a form that's already been completed by the school and the student. They gave them a blank form. Well, if they did not have a student that had filled out a release form because they'd never done one, all they had to do was put in their ISS, we did not have any students to complete release forms. That's all they had to do. And then they would have provided a blank form. So NACCAS would know that they didn't have any students to have the release form. But we did provide a blank one. So they answered that question wrong. Okay. The requested information was not provided. Please provide a description of how the institution maintains accreditation records for the period required. Now, the records have to be maintained for at least 6 years in a locked file cabinet. They didn't know how to answer that question. And that's the thing with your paperwork, you have to know how to answer the questions. The team, the ladies that I work with, they know how to do all of that. I just usually talk to y'all on the front end. Miss Velma's, her husband and son, they have, part on or whatever, of this program, because I partner with her. So the team is doing all of that. I just kind of talk to y'all on the front end. We partnered, they're 50%, I'm 50%. So we'll keep going. Please refer to the section above entitled Official Program Names and Official Programs offered by the institution. They're telling them that because, one, they're not using the correct school name that they have on file with NACCAS, nor are they using all the programs that they have on file with NACCAS. They only have 2, but notice they teaching 6. Let's keep going. Catalog. Your catalog has a checklist, and I've shown you all that in previous training videos. Guess what? They ain't do the checklist. It has to be cross-referenced fully. And you have to write a letter, a number, a letter by each thing. I showed you all that in an hour training, so I'm not going to go over that. Y'all can go and look at that video where I'm showing you the NACCAS checklist for the enrollment agreement, the catalog, the leave of absence policy, the withdrawal record. I'm showing you all of that. So make sure y'all go back and watch that video. Okay, so a lot of things were missing in this catalog requirement. The catalog does not contain a program outline for their cosmetology 1,000 hour. A program outline should include for each separate program offered by the institution. So they didn't have a program outline for that. A lot of things they didn't do. The program outlines, they didn't have the distance education instructional methods. The program that do not include distance education should not include distance education. Okay, so they had programs that were not distance education, and they had distance education instructional methods. You can't do that. Next thing, the program outlines have a chart to include textbooks for the program. However, the chart is blank and does not include textbook information. So they left a lot of stuff blank. Look at this. The grounds for termination does not match. Okay. Your enrollment agreement, rules and regulations, policies and procedures should match what you have in your catalog. Basically what they're saying here, what you have in your enrollment agreement does not match the catalog. It needs to match verbatim. All right. Next thing. The total tuition cost for the Cosmo program is different in your catalog on pages 9 and 10. On page 9, it states that the tuition is $5,001. And page 10, it states that it's $5,000. That's probably a typo or something, I'm sure. The enrollment agreement, let's look at the next one, states that the cost of transfer hours is $15 per hour. However, all right, the cost for transfer hours is $15, what they put on the enrollment agreement. But guess what? That cost is not listed in the catalog. It needs to be in the catalog. It's so much in here. The books charge description is different. So the book cost on their catalog and in their enrollment agreement is different. No, it has to be the same. Page 8 of your catalog indicates that the transcript fee is $25. However, on page 46 in your catalog, it says the transcript fee is $10. Y'all, it has to be the same. Let's go. The methods of payment are not consistently published in the catalog. Your methods of payments got to be consistent in the catalog, same. Also, the methods of payment in your enrollment agreement must be the same as in your catalog. Let's see. The catalog states that the teacher to student ratio. In their catalog, they had the student to teacher ratio, 8 students to 1 teacher. We already know what it is. 20 students to 1 teacher. Let's keep going. Okay, the ISS contained blank forms utilized to document receipt of the most recent annual report statistics for the enrollment. However, they did not provide that form. Your annual report, your graduation, placement, licensure rates. Students got to fill out a form before they start because that has to be revealed. If you're a new school, you won't have those rates, but they still got to fill out this form, the pre-enrollment receipt and the orientation checklist. They didn't have this. They said, look, please provide a copy of an executed form. They didn't have that. The ISS State C exhibit, what is that, IV.6 for executed pre-enrollment requirement. However, guess what? They did not provide it. We'll keep going. On the enrollment agreement, there's a checklist for the enrollment agreement. NACCAS will provide you a checklist. I've shown you all video trainings of an enrollment agreement with the NACCAS checklist. I did a full training on that with nothing but that. Guess what? This checklist that they did, cross-reference, all messed up. We can look at some details. Let's see. The enrollment agreement states that the current cost for transfer hours is $15. However, catalog is not the same. We saw that. Books, not the same. What else in here? The enrollment agreement does not consistently name the kit charge the same way. Okay, what did it say? It said kits in one area, and if we look at this right here, it says supplies/kits. It's got to be, if it's kits, it needs to be kits everywhere. You can't have kits, then kits/supplies or whatever. No, it has to be consistent. NACCAS is very detailed, very picky, very A-type personality, however you want to call it. The grounds for termination does not match the same in the enrollment agreement and the catalog. It has to be the same. The graduation requirements on page 5 and 6 of the enrollment agreement do not match. And guess what? The graduation requirements that they have in an enrollment agreement does not match the graduation requirements in their catalog. Okay. Now, we're going to keep going. Okay, enrollment agreements provided in the ISS are not considered fully executed. Okay, so on your enrollment agreements, and I shared this in a full training, I told y'all, when you do your enrollment agreement with that student, everything must be filled out. Even if it does not pertain to that student, put an NA or draw a line that you acknowledged it. Do not leave anything blank, okay? Now, let's see what they did. Jane Smith, zip code was left blank. Robert Wilson, the Tuesday schedule appears to have a cross out. Oh, okay. So basically, they made a change on the enrollment agreement, maybe a mess up a type when they was writing something in. And anytime you change something on an enrollment agreement, like if you writing or whatever, or draw a line on something, you got to initial that. They didn't do that. That's what that is. Mike Perry, the date on page 2 was changed with no initials by the student. Okay, so they changed the date. They didn't initial it. Let's see. Yeah, see, I just told y'all, look, when a portion of the enrollment agreement does not apply, what did I just tell y'all? Put NA or dash. I just told y'all that. When you make changes, what did I say? When you make changes, this right here, all you have to do is initial it. Keep going. Let's see. Distance education technology. That's this right here that wasn't provided on the website. We'll keep going. Standard 5. Not all the requested information was provided. As the institution indicates that hours are awarded for orientation. I wouldn't award no hours for orientation, but they did, and guess what? A copy of the curriculum that includes orientation in the program will need to be provided. They didn't provide that. Now look at this. Program outline for a 200 clock hour program does not include information pertaining to professionalism, resume. So their program outline does not have everything that needs to be in there. Keep going. Let's see. Okay, here. The ISS contains state regulations pertaining to the Barber program. However, they did not include any regulations pertaining to the crossover program. So they got this crossover program, y'all, and they state board, NACCAS checked the state board, and they didn't see no crossover program in their state board. So one or two things. They're gonna have to get a letter from the state board saying that this is an approved program, or they're gonna have to remove that program. The units of instruction for the crossover program does not include the hours devoted to laws and regulations. The institution needs to revise that. A lot of work, y'all. All the requested information was not provided for each program. So the programs that they offer, guess what? Guess what was not provided? Course program and objectives. Data that I have a sample lesson plan of objectives, an example of written evaluation, an example of practical evaluation, or any other applicable instructional materials. They did not have that. I know this may seem like a lot, but that's why you have an expert. Okay, standard criteria. Let's see. Not all information was provided. The institution will need to provide a copy of regulations pertaining to externships. So just say externships, if they have a program where they have high school students or whatever with the prisons that are enrolled in their school, that's externships. And you have to have the rules and regulations for that. And you got to have the contract that you have that externship with that prison or that high school or whatever. All right. And once you get your school accredited, you don't have to do that ISS every year. You don't have to do that every year. Let's see. The requested information was not provided. Please provide a description of how the institution ensures that the management, control, and delivery of distance education is maintained by the institution. They didn't provide that. The institution's distance education policy is not compliant with NACCAS distance education policy for the following reasons. Okay, let's see. The institution policy states distance education assessment of student performance is conducted on campus by a qualified instructor according to the theory chapter they're studying and the test date corresponding to it. While this is stated, the policy does not indicate that the assessment is conducted at least monthly. So they need to put that in their policy that it's conducted at least monthly. Let's go on to standard 7. Standard 7. If the school does not offer distance education, and a lot of schools don't, in that standard, you would put NA. So you don't even have to deal with the distance education. You just put NA and move on to the next question. All right, institutional refund. I did a complete video training, and it's in your back portal on the institutional refund policy. Now, some states have a state mandated refund policy. California has a state mandated, Texas got a state mandated, and there are a lot of others. Some states don't. If they don't, they use NACCAS refund policy. So the refund policy has a checklist too. Based on this right here, the cross-reference with the state mandate, they didn't do it correctly. All right. Let's see. One of the questions they didn't even answer. Look, they didn't mark it yes, no, or NA. So they need to respond to that question. Let's go to the next thing. Not all the requested information was provided. Please provide a description of the documentation that will be available for review by the on-site team. Okay. The refunds are received by the recipient in a timely manner. In addition, provide examples. Okay, so basically, they didn't answer the question properly, correctly, how refunds are given back to the students, when they're given back. Also, if you have a student that withdrew, that got kicked out or whatever, you must do a refund calculation. You must do that withdrawal refund sheet. It doesn't matter if the student owes you money or don't owe you money, or nobody owes nobody money. You still have to do the refund withdrawal calculation sheet and put it in the student's file. This school, they did not do that, and they did not have any examples of that. That's what that is. Okay, this item was marked. What item was that? Was marked yes. This item was marked yes, and resumes were provided for financial aid staff. However, the institution does not participate in federal funding. So they answered that question wrong. They should have put NA, because the school is not even approved to get financial aid. So that question needs to be marked NA, because they're not even approved to get financial aid. And they need to put that we're not approved to receive financial aid. Go on to the next question. So there's a lot of stuff that they're just answering wrong. Let's go on down to the satisfactory academic progress policy. I did a complete training by itself on this satisfactory academic progress policy. So you all can review that later. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I'm going to continue to look over this report by this school. Now, please make the following changes to the institution's satisfactory academic progress policy in the catalog. So basically, they didn't do their satisfactory academic progress policy correctly. It's not worded correctly in the catalog. Also, the checklist that NACCAS provides, they didn't do that properly. So let's look at it. When cross-reference, ensure that it's fully cross-referenced. They didn't fully cross-reference it. Let's see. The policy contains a maximum time frame chart that includes a column entitled schedule hours. While it is not clear what this column is for, during the consultation, the institution indicated that this is listed the maximum time frame in the scheduled weeks rather than indicated schedule hours. Yeah, they all twisted up. The institution will need to correct the heading of this column. Yeah, that's not correct. The policy contains multiple academic years for each program. While the institution may have different academic years for each program, there should only be one academic year per program. In addition, not all the academic years listed meet the definition of an academic year as outlined in the NACCAS glossary, which is no less than 900 clock hours over at least 26 academic weeks. A lot of stuff they didn't do right. I'm not going to go into detail on all because I don't want to bore you all, but I'm just going over everything that is incorrect. The institution's evaluations periods contain clock hours, but not include associate number of weeks. Each evaluation period should consist of both clock hours and weeks. In the catalog, and I've gone over this, I know with me reading this to you all, you're not understanding it fully. But if you watch the video trainings where I actually have the catalog pulled up and I'm pointing to everything showing you, you will have a visual and a clear understanding. Okay, next thing, but I'm just going over this report with you all so y'all can see all of this stuff that's wrong. The ISS contain examples of progress reports. And I've given y'all a complete training of that. Guess what? However, these satisfactory, these are, oh, guess what? They provided examples, but they weren't satisfactory academic progress reports. There's no telling what they had in there. The next thing, these items were not marked. Okay, so standard 10, that's the last standard. There are 10 standards, and I've gone over complete training with you all on this. They didn't mark anything on standard 10. Standard 10 is an associate degree program. Guess what? Barber, Cosmo, nails, aesthetics, beauty, all of this, we don't have to do standard 10. All we have to do is go down standard 10 on each question and mark this. NA. That's it. They didn't mark anything. So now they check some files. And look, when they check some of the student files, this is what they found. Eric Jones in this program, date, let's see. Okay, look at this. Start date 9/20/22. They signed the contract after they started. That's a no-no. You can't sign, that contract cannot be dated after they started. Okay? So pre-enrollment document was signed after the student started class. There's no documentation of what? A high school diploma. You don't have to have an interview or whatever. You ain't got to have nothing that a tour was taken, but you want to have all the orientation documents, pre-orientation receipt, orientation checklist. If a high school diploma is required or GED or transcript, you need to have that. Another thing missing, they didn't have any satisfactory academic progress reports. Larry Smith, they pulled his file. Same thing. Start date 2/1. Guess what? He signed it the next day. No. Changes made with no initials. On the enrollment agreement, they had different changes. They didn't initial it. Program name, they left that blank. You see that right here, program name left blank. Told y'all that pre-enrollment documents signed after they started class. There's no documentation of their age. This person, they ain't even provide an ID. They ain't even get a copy of the student ID to put in the file or anything. They just, it's like, yeah, I don't know. SAP is missing. Okay, another student. Graduate files. It tells you things that need to be in the graduate files. So let's look at this student. Start date, graduation date. They made changes to the enrollment agreement, and guess what? There were no initials. Pre-enrollment document was signed after they started class. They don't have documentation of no ID. They just, yeah, no SAP evaluations. When they graduated, they ain't got a graduate exit survey. They don't have the satisfactory academic progress. They don't even have the thing whether the student made payments. None of that. Keep going. Randy Sanders. Same thing, signed after they graduated. They made changes on the enrollment agreement. There's nothing, no initials, no satisfactory academic progress reports. The graduation documents, no graduation surveys, no documents of what a student was making payments on the ledgers, no grades, no theory grades, no practical grades. All this goes in institutional self-study. Let's see, Lisa Williams. Okay, this student started and they quit. Guess what? Date refund calculation. They didn't do a refund calculation. It's unknown because they didn't even do one. See, look at this. There is no institutional refund calculations in the student file. James Williams. Another one. Made changes on the enrollment agreement, no initials. Student started, they signed paperwork after they started. No documentations of this student. Also, they withdrew. They didn't do a refund calculation. All right, so I want to share this report with you all. Hopefully you all learned some things from this report. I'm going to do another training where I'm going to show you all one of these reports, and there was 0 limitations for somebody that's in our program. But hopefully you all learned a lot from this training. So this was a NACCAS report where NACCAS came to a school and inspected it, and these were the things that they found wrong. Now, this school has to correct all of this. The best way for them to correct this is to hire an expert, whether it's us or somebody out there that knows what they're doing, that has a team that can come together and get all of this knocked out. So this is a NACCAS inspection.